Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown of Obi-Wan Kenobi Episode 3, in which Darth Vader proves himself the worst parade Grand Marshal. Let us break down this episode scene by scene for all of the Star Wars connections and visual details that you might have missed. A reminder that the best way to support us here at New Rockstars is to get your hands on our new latest Obsession shirt inspired by Obi-Wan Kenobi, Empire's Most Wanted, over at newrockstarsmerch.com. When you grab that one, it gives you the added option to write in a custom shout-out that will be in our Obi-Wan Kenobi after shows WikiLeaks. The episode opens with this tilt-up shot of Obi-Wan in the transport. The camera movement and the diagonal light cast on that slanted wall ahead forms a parallel movement and shot composition to the opening shot of the Mustafar castle, which also forms a triangular shape. It's just a really cool way of showing these two characters linked by the Force, now fully aware of each other, their collision inevitable.
He's coming, Master.
Here, Obi-Wan is once again calling out to Master Qui-Gon, but he is only met by silence and painful voices from his past. Reva telling him that Anakin is alive, Yoda saying, "Only pain will you find." His warning to Obi-Wan before showing him the security tapes of Anakin killing the younglings, Qui-Gon making him promise to train this boy in his dying breaths in Phantom Menace, and all that shit talk Anakin said to him before their duel on Mustafar. And under all of this, we see Vader being assembled into his suit, clamps removing his breathing tubes first, and then all the other parts, and then finally his breathing apparatus last, meaning Vader has to hold his breath for all of this while his lungs burn every morning. Now, we got glimpses of this assembly at the end of Revenge of the Sith, but this montage more clearly shows what Obi-Wan's Force Ghost tells Luke in Return of the Jedi: he is more machine now than man. And you can see how his control box has these prods deep enough to poke into his abdomen flesh. One thing we don't see here is how this suit and helmet all have needles that actually dig into Vader's skin to fuse with his tissue. And as the iconic mask lowers, we hear this little whistle sound effect. Yes, this is the same airlock seal sound effect from Vader's first mechanized breath in Revenge of the Sith. And you'll notice how the mask's forehead has now been extended just a bit lower. This is to better match the look of the mask design in the original 1977 Star Wars. In a lot of these movies, if you look closely at Vader's helmet and mask, little details about his mask and his armor change just a little bit. In this case, it's the closest to what we saw in the original film. And you'll notice his mask eyepieces are reflected these red lights. At first, I thought it was the red display of the interior of the mask, but actually it's the floor lights before him in this chamber, but the effect is the same because it foretells the red lightsaber he will use on his old master at the end of this episode. This opening shot shows the red glow of the saber in his eyes. The last shot we see of him in this episode will show the flames of his anger. So we go from order, this clean red lightsaber shape, to chaos, violent flames. Vader's rejuvenation chamber in Mustafar Castle look just as they do in Rogue One, the lava cascade in the Twin Spire Castle that Lucasfilm's Doug Chiang based on original Ralph McQuarrie art, making it look like, in his words, a tuning fork for the dark side of the Force. The 2017 Darth Vader comics by Charles Soule show how Vader constructed this castle deliberately at the nexus of dark side energy in hopes of opening a portal so he could be with Padme once more, but of course he failed in this endeavor and afterwards sealed himself away in solitude. And I love this. The wide shot of his throne room actually looks like Vader's mask in extreme close-up. The two angry red slits for the eyes, Vader's throne forming the nosepiece, and the steps forming his trapezoidal mouthpiece. Here, Vader and the third sister Reva chat.
He will pay for the Grand Inquisitor's...
The Grand Inquisitor means nothing. Kenobi is all that matters now.
Yes, James Earl Jones is credited for Vader's voice here, but actually if you look closely later in the credits, is the voice AI company Respeecher. This is the company that recreated the voice of Mark Hamill for Luke in the Disney Plus shows, even though Mark Hamill was credited in those too, because they are using these actors' vocal likeness. But by using Respeecher here, that is why Vader's voice sounds as clean as it did in the original trilogy. And yeah, you may have noticed how before Vader cut her off, Reva was totally blaming Obi-Wan for stabbing the Grand Inquisitor on Daiyu. This shows that she doesn't want Vader and the other Inquisitors to know that she actively usurped authority, and in doing so, she makes out Kenobi to be a more lethal threat than he actually is right now. I think especially after Vader duels that lightweight old man Kenobi, he probably knows that Reva was the one who stabbed the Grand Inquisitor. By the way, no update on the status of the Grand Inquisitor. Presumably he will recover with some Fennec Shand style stomach gears to maintain continuity with Rebels. I just think it would be really weird for Star Wars to retcon him from Rebels. Either way, it's clear Darth Vader doesn't really care about the health and well-being of the Grand Inquisitor, as we saw these two had a very bitter rivalry in those 2017 comics. Leia asks Obi-Wan to use the Force to make the ship go faster, but he says,
"That's not how it works."
Echoing Han Solo's line to Finn in Force Awakens,
"We'll use the Force. That's not how the Force works."
But he elaborates,
Have you ever been afraid of the dark? How does it feel when you turn on the light?
I feel safe.
Yes, it feels like that.
It's an interesting metaphor, the Force as literal illumination giving certainty to a world of doubt. But the way Ewan delivers this line, you can tell that he hasn't felt that safety in years. This is an interesting, deeper theme of this episode. What is the path? Is the path the illuminated one, or is the path in shadow? Illumination versus blindness. Actually, later this episode, notice how Obi-Wan will use his lightsaber as a literal light source, but doing so only blinds him from seeing the threat. Light may be his safety blanket, but ultimately it is his folly. They arrive at Mapuzo, which is an obscure mid-rim planet mentioned as the site of the Mapuzo break-in in the Alliance intelligence reports that are connected with the Star Wars role-playing game in the 90s. Here we learn this planet has been mined stripped of ventrium by the Empire. Ventrium is a mineral that was mentioned in the Star Wars Clone Adventures game. As they deboard, you'll notice a red R5 astromech unit, maybe the same one who keeps reappearing in Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett on Tatooine, the one with the busted motivator from A New Hope. If so, this astromech is racking up some serious mileage. Maybe it's just a different astromech. Obi-Wan spots an apparition of Anakin. Hayden Christensen is unburned, wearing brown Jedi robes. Deborah Chow distorts this close-up of Ewan, but only shoots Hayden at a distance. And it's just kind of creepy. Like, we're not meant to connect with or empathize with Vader or Anakin in this moment. He's not the human point of view here. He's really meant to be shown from afar as a devilish ghost and mirage that's driving Obi-Wan insane. Meanwhile, the Inquisitor ship approaches the Fortress Inquisitorius on the ocean moon of Nur. We actually visit the same location in the Jedi Fallen Order game. It is the home base of the Inquisitors, where they relocated after they had a base on Coruscant called the Works. Nur is actually not that far away from Mustafar. You'll notice on the deck is an Imperial Lambda-class shuttle, and TIE fighters hang like bats from the ceiling, which definitely give this hangar a cave-like quality, making it especially sinister. As a third sister marches past, every stormtrooper and Imperial officer halts in attention to show her respect. Reva enters the Inquisitor chamber, framed directly between the points of the head chair. That chair shape meant to match their ship and Vader's castle. And this places Reva directly between the prongs of the dark side tuning fork. And then here is the creepiest detail of this episode. The room is lined with this red shelf that not only visually parallels Vader's thin red window, but if you look closely at that shelf, you can see lightsabers and domed youngling helmets on display as trophies. Sickening. Assuming Reva was one of those runaway younglings, these might belong to her friends or maybe to herself. The fifth brother uses the Force on Reva.
I am the next in line.
We still don't really have a sense of the numerical designations of the Inquisitors, fifth brother versus third sister. The numbers clearly do not correspond to their rank. In the ocean depths behind them, the sea life includes the Blue Vev glider. That's the large shark-sized Nur aquatic species they swim past in Fallen Order. Obi-Wan and Leia get a ride from this transport driven by Freck, voiced by Zach Braff. His snout fans open like that of a star-nosed mole. Leia uses the alias of Luma, which in Disney's Galaxy's Edge is the name of a lost Tuca cat mentioned on the notice board in Oga's Cantina. She says,
Father, aren't you going to say hello?
Hello?
"Oh, you were one there away from the line. Say the line, Ben."
Hello there.
Obi-Wan passes Freck's Imperial Signa, and if you look closely, you can see Freck has actually hand-painted it. So Freck himself did some arts and crafts, painting this banner himself to show his allegiance, as opposed to him being handed a printed banner that he has to reluctantly put on his transport. No, this guy is a true believer. Now, one of the stormtroopers who they meet is played by an old pal of me and Tommy's from the LA comedy scene, Shane Hartline.
Oh, no, we'll find him. We always do.
Congrats, Shane, for booking this. You did it, buddy. Obi-Wan accidentally uses Leia's real name, and these smarter than usual stormtroopers immediately pick up on it, but Obi-Wan covers by saying Leia was her mother's name.
Sometimes when I look at Luma, I see her mother's face.
Yes, again, Obi-Wan invokes Padme, this series giving us several reminders of the bond that he felt toward her. Losing Padme was as hard for him as losing Anakin in a lot of ways. Obi-Wan again does that beard stroke gesture, a move that Ewan mirrored from Alec Guinness from the 1977 film, and he first did in the Revenge of the Sith final scene in order to show his aging into that era of the character. As they lead the Stormtroopers chat, yes, the T-16s are the Skyhopper ships that Luke will later pilot in the model version Obi-Wan tried to give Luke as a toy in Episode 1. The Stormtroopers casually chatting about it is kind of a recurring thing in Star Wars, like we heard the Death Star Stormtroopers chatting in A New Hope, talking about the VT-16 or BT-16.
You seen that new BT-16? Yeah, some other guy telling me about it.
And in The Mandalorian Season 1, Chapter 8, the Stormtroopers outside Navarro talked about it too.
What was that?
Obi-Wan explains to Leia,
As Jedi were taken from our families when we were very young. I still have glimpses, flashes really. My mother's shawl, my father's hands. I remember a baby. Yes, I think I had a brother. I really don't remember him. I wished I did. Then I joined the Jedi and I got a new family, just like you.
So the little we knew of Obi-Wan before this is that he was born on a planet called Stu-Jon, a planet actually named after Jon Stewart, and he was taken to Coruscant when he was less than 6 months old. He was a bebe. So the baby brother that Obi-Wan remembered would logically be older than he is. But who knows if we will meet Brother Kenobi or if he's Force sensitive. Personally, I'm okay never meeting the guy. Frex sells out Obi-Wan and Leia, and as that probe droid IDs him, Obi-Wan uses his so uncivilized blaster to destroy it and take out the stormtroopers. One stormtrooper falls on the laser fence and gets the maul treatment. Ouch! And then the last one, Kenobi shoots from a low angle without sighting it. So smooth, but that blast does come in just inches above Leia's head. Now it can be hard to see the deeper truth of this. It can also be hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel when you have high interest debt. And sometimes it can be even harder to ask for help. And that's where Upstart comes in. Upstart powered personal loans can help you pay down high interest debt all online with simple and easy to understand payment terms. Upstart has helped over 1.8 million customers on their path to financial freedom. Whether it's paying off credit cards, consolidating high interest debt, or funding personal expenses, Upstart can help you get one fixed monthly payment with a clear payoff date. Upstart knows that you are more than just your credit score, so rather than looking at your credit score alone, Upstart's model considers other factors like your income, your employment, and other information provided in your loan application to find you a smarter rate for your loan. You can check your rate in minutes for loans between $1,000 to $50,000 without impacting your credit score. You can even receive funds as fast as one business day after accepting your loan. So don't wait and check your rate today at upstart.com/newrockstars. That's upstart.com/newrockstars to check your rate today. Don't forget to use our URL to let them know that we sent you. Go to upstart.com/newrockstars. Indira Varma plays Tala, Haja's contact, rescuing them disguised as an Imperial officer. Meanwhile, the Inquisitor's map table translates to Mapuzo, and you'll notice the third sister and the fifth brother stand just on either side of that empty Grand Inquisitor seat, both of them wanting it, but as Reva turns to leave, she is once again framed between the two prongs, the tuning fork seat back. Inside the Mapuzo droid maintenance shop, you can see legs of protocol droids hanging on the walls, legs for days. Now actually at some point during these years of Star Wars history, C-3PO will have his legs swapped out for a silver one, which is why he has a random silver leg at the beginning of A New Hope. Also on one of the shelves, you can see the clampy hand of a B-2 battle droid from Attack of the Clones. And they meet the forever loyal mining droid Ned B.
Hi, Ned B. This is L0LA59.
He's just a loader. They don't allow them to communicate.
But what if he has something to say?
That's another example of Leia's trust in droids, something that she will rely on with R2 in A New Hope. Tala brings them back into this Jedi safe house.
We have safe houses like this throughout the galaxy, trying to link the systems. Some call it the Path.
The Path. So in the High Republic novels, the Path was the name given by the Nihil for hyperspace lanes to travel the galaxy faster than the Republic and the Jedi could. This path could refer to a similar navigation network. These safe houses mirror the American Underground Railroad, the network of safe houses for runaway slaves to make their way to the Free States and to Canada. Like the Jedi symbol marked on the wall here, slaves and abolitionists would mark trees and surfaces on buildings to signal to each other safe passage. And just a little detail here, I appreciate how they call it the Path, whereas the Inquisitors call it the Trail, something you embark upon versus something that you follow. Tala continues to explain,
It all leads to Jabim. From there, we give them new identities and get them out.
So Jabim is a planet originally from the non-canon Republic comics. Later in the Empire comics, it's just a muddy, rain-soaked mining planet that joined the Separatists during the Clone Wars and will later be the setting of a Rebels versus Empire conflict during the Galactic Civil War. Between Mapuzo and Jabim, this path seems to be linked with mining planets and the equipment and minerals that are shipped among them. Perhaps Crate from The Last Jedi could have been part of this path, which would explain why there was an old abandoned Rebel base there. Tala says,
These days, the Empire hunts anyone who's force sensitive. Even children.
What happens to them?
We're not sure. No one ever sees them again.
Yes, sounds like the Emperor's Project Harvester, or some version of it, might be back in effect. Remember, that was his Clone Wars plot to have Cad Bane kidnap Force-sensitive babies for a future Sith army, these Force-sensitive youths tracked via a holocron. In the 2017 comics, Jocasta Nu returns to the Jedi Temple to uncover a holocron to try to rebuild the Jedi Order. This is a holocron that Palpatine tells Vader to recover with Jocasta still alive, but Vader kills Jocasta and crushes that holocron, revealing that he actually does not want more Inquisitors Inquisitors to have to work with, just to give you a sense of what Vader thinks of these guys. You'll notice this safe house has been marked by various other Jedi, which in my opinion is not very smart to leave any trace if you don't want the Empire to track you, but you know, I get it. I was able to make out a few of these. There's Roganda Ismarin, who was an Alderaanian Jedi initiate who survived the Purge, who's a Legends figure from the 1995 Children of the Jedi novel. Valen Halcyon, aka Hal Horn, secret son of the Jedi Neha Halcyon from the 1996 X-Wing Rogue Squadron comics, also a Legends figure, a Purge survivor who became a Corellian security force officer and an inspector, later became father to Corran Horn. And Jin Altis, a Jedi Master from the Legends 2009 Clone Wars No Prisoners novels, head of the Altesian Jedi who do not follow the Jedi High Council but still serve the Republic. And Obi-Wan finds among these a message from Quinlan referring to Quinlan Vos. Now Master Vos, no relation, he forgot an S. This was a character who was first inspired by a background hooded figure on Tatooine in Phantom Menace, later given a fuller backstory in the Republic comics, and planned to appear in Revenge of the Sith on Kashyyyk, but his role was reduced to just a quick mention.
Master Voss has moved his troops to Bos Pitti.
Quinlan appeared in an episode of Clone Wars and was planned to have a much bigger arc in Clone Wars before the show was canceled, but that storyline became the basis of the 2015 novel Dark Disciple, where he was the love interest of Dooku's one-time apprentice, Asajj Ventress. Now, Quinlan was always suggested to have survived Order 66. His name appeared alongside Jedi survivors that the Inquisitors were hunting during those 2017 Darth Vader comics, and then later in those comics, he was mentioned by Farron Barr. Now it is confirmed that Quinlan is alive still, smuggling younglings to safety. Actually, he may be the one to have saved Grogu from the Jedi Temple. And now I'm wondering if this could be the character played by O'Shea Jackson Jr. Maybe we'll find out next week. Obi-Wan reads his message.
Only when the eyes are closed can you truly see.
See what?
The way.
A cryptic line. But yes, it is a recurring theme for Jedi to mask their physical vision to make them more in touch with the Force, like Luke lowering his targeting display, Kanan losing his eyesight, but also invokes the theme of blindness versus illumination in this episode. Obi-Wan sees the Force as a light that saves him from his fear of darkness, but Quinlan is now telling him that he must embrace uncertainty to see the way, perhaps a way to a reunion with Qui-Gon. Now, like the mention of the path this episode, closed captioning capitalizes way, capital W, which could be a clue for what this actually is. Now, Quinlan is known for psychometry, the Jedi skill of understanding someone's past through an object that they touched or possessed, like what we saw with Rey and Luke's lightsaber in Force Awakens. So Quinlan could be hinting at his own abilities here, but the capital W way could also refer to this is the way of the Watch, the Mandalorian cult, of the armor in the young Din Djarin. In Wookiee Leaks, I go to a pretty reachy theory about how I think those two could be connected. But Obi-Wan gets the dizzies again as Vader arrives in this camp. Yeah, just his breathing and his shadow are enough to scare the crap out of us. As Obi-Wan peers out at him, notice the moment Obi-Wan winces ever so slightly, and that is the moment Vader stops and senses him. And Vader, now knowing Obi-Wan is near, uses the same cruel tactic that Reva used, attacking innocent bystanders to draw out the Jedi's itchy savior instinct. He force chokes one man, and then when his son comes out to help him, he shoves that kid and snaps his neck. Then he drags a screaming woman behind him in the dirt. Remember, Vader will also use this tactic to torture Han in order to lure Luke to Cloud City and Empire. The tactic works here too. Vader is about to kill a hiding couple, a little hiding Anakin and Padme, until Obi-Wan appears in his periphery and flees to a nearby quarry. Vader follows, appearing before him, and notice how Obi-Wan's jog slows to a halt, reminding us of old man Obi-Wan's slow approach to Vader in the corridor of the Death Star in A New Hope. I love the shot composition of massive Vader in the foreground, the red lightsaber pinning him into the frame, whereas before Anakin was in the far distance, very small in frame. Now it is Vader who is looming large and Obi-Wan itty bitty in frame. Obi-Wan ignites his blade finally, but not to engage Vader at first, instead to just use it as a torch in the darkness. But instead he is blinded by its light and Vader reappears.
What have you become?
I am what you made me.
Now, while that re-speecher technology reproduced James Earl Jones' voice, they likely still had Hayden deliver these lines on set. And for this line, it definitely sounds like they mixed in a bit of Hayden's voice, just like how they mixed Matt Lanter Anakin's voice with James Earl Jones' voice in the scene in Rebels when Ahsoka broke open his mask.
Then you will die.
Here, it underscores the personal history between Ewan's character and Hayden's character from Revenge of the Sith. Obi-Wan then gets surprised from the side just as Vader jumped out at Luke in their Cloud City duel in Empire. And notice how while Obi-Wan clutches his saber hilt dispensably with 2 hands, Vader is able to confidently strike with just 1 hand, clearly showing how rusty Obi-Wan really is.
The years have made you weak.
Obi-Wan's able to briefly escape by swiping a conduit to release some smoke, similar to how Luke slips Vader by releasing steam in Empire. Meanwhile, Reva finds a safe house and rages when she sees the Jedi symbol. Another possible hint that she might have been that Jedi youngling in the temple, now particularly triggered by Jedi iconography. But notice how Reva does not follow the path to catch Leia. She just deduces where the path leads and skips right to the destination. Because as a former Jedi, she knows the path. She knows where the path leads. She's not gonna follow the way anymore, or the Grand Inquisitor's trail. Instead, she blazes her own way. And as usual, by taking her own risks, she's able to stay one step ahead of her prey. Vader knocks over a vat of Ventrium, and he force chokes Obi-Wan until the old man drops his saber, and Vader ignites this mineral to literally rake Obi-Wan across the coals, scalding his flesh, just like how Obi-Wan left Anakin burning alive on Mustafar. Therefore, the light that Obi-Wan once viewed as the Force comforting him is now a source of pain.
Your pain has just begun.
Maybe it's just the way Ewan screams here, but his shrieks sounds a lot like Anakin's pained screams when he was burned. Now, these two brothers are reconnecting through that same pain. But he force pushes Obi-Wan out of these flames, signaling that he doesn't want him to die here. He just wants to torture him in future, scarier ways. But Tala manages to reignite those minerals to form a barrier where Ned B can carry Obi-Wan to safety. I just love the shots of Vader with the flames behind him. Those flames reflected in his eyepieces, creating the illusion of a fire blazing from within his helmet. As if underneath all this armor, this is still a man on fire. The flames from the lava of Mustafar never able to be extinguished. That's all the cool stuff I found in this episode. Again, support New Rockstars by checking out our great merch options over at newrockstarsmerch.com. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EA Voss. Follow New Rockstars. Subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching. Bye.